In the middle of a cold, quiet Tuesday night, you find yourself staring at the ceiling while the woman next to you sleeps with her phone tucked under her pillow like a guarded secret. You've noticed the change, the way she pulls away when you touch her, the way her eyes never quite meet yours anymore, and the working late excuses that have started to sound like a rehearsed script. But the moment you find the courage to ask a single question, the air in the room shifts. Suddenly, she isn't answering for her whereabouts. She's reminding you of the time you let her down 4 years ago. She's bringing up that one mistake you made, that one time you failed, that one secret you confessed in confidence, and she's using it to set your soul on fire. You went into the conversation looking for the truth about her, but you're leaving it feeling like a monster. This is the psychological dead zone that thousands of men are currently trapped in. Behavioral observations suggest that for a woman who is navigating the guilt of a current betrayal, your past mistakes are the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. She isn't bringing up your history because she's still hurting. She's bringing it up because it is the only thing that makes her current cheating feel like justice. While you are busy drowning in the shame of who you used to be, she is free to continue being the person who is destroying your home right now. The house feels like a courtroom where the judge is also the criminal, and you are the only one serving a sentence. If you are tired of being the only person in the relationship who has to be accountable while she uses your past as a silencer for your intuition, you need to stay until the very last second of this video. I'm going to expose the diversion tactics used to keep you in a state of perpetual apology and show you exactly how to break the guilt shackles so you can finally see the reality of what is happening in your own bed. I'm not here to argue with the world about what a real man is. I'm here for the men who are quietly trying to get their lives together, the ones rebuilding, the ones learning discipline the hard way, the ones who got knocked down and decided to stand back up. If you're working on yourself, even if nobody sees it, this channel is for you. Subscribe if you're serious about growth. Leave a comment so I know you're here. No noise, no hype, just men doing the work. The first psychological mechanism we must expose is the projection of guilt. When a person is doing something wrong, especially something as heavy as cheating, their brain is under massive pressure to find a way to make them the good person in the story. Behavioral patterns suggest that instead of facing their own betrayal, they look for a reason why you deserve it. They dig through the graveyard of your relationship looking for an old argument, a time you forgot an anniversary, or a mistake you made early on. They hold these things up like a shield. Psychological observations suggest that by making you the bad guy of the past, they give themselves a moral hall pass for the present. You are the victim of retrospective justification when she uses a 3-year-old mistake to balance the scales for a betrayal she committed 3 hours ago. To understand this, you must look at the guilt loop. Guilt is a powerful tool for control. If she can keep you in a state of constant penance, you will be too busy trying to earn her forgiveness to notice that she is actually the one violating the relationship. It's a form of emotional gaslighting. Every time you feel a gut instinct that something is wrong, she reminds you of the time you let her down. Suddenly, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain meant for logic, is flooded with shame. You stop being a judge of her behavior and start being a defendant in her courtroom. This is a neurological hijack. She is using your own conscience as a weapon against your intuition. Let's look at the path of Dominic. Dominic was a man who truly cared about his family. 4 years ago, Dominic had a brief period where he struggled with a vice. Maybe he drank too much or he was irresponsible with money. He felt terrible. He apologized, he did the work, and he fixed himself. But when his wife Sarah started staying out late and hiding her phone, anytime Dominic asked a question, Sarah would bring up the year Dominic ruined everything. She would cry and say, "How can you question me after what you put me through?" Dominic is the loser in our story because he allowed ghost guilt to blind him. Because he still felt bad about his past, he felt he owed her an infinite amount of patience. He spent the next year trying to be perfect to make up for his old mistake, while Sarah used that freedom to conduct a full-blown affair with a coworker.
Dominic thought he was saving his marriage by being humble, but he was actually financing her infidelity with his silence. He was a victim of debt-based loyalty. He didn't realize that in a healthy relationship, a mistake that has been forgiven is a closed file. Sarah kept the file open because it was the only thing protecting her from being caught. Dominic lost because he thought mercy was a one-way street. The second way she weaponizes your past is through defensive diversion. Behavioral observations suggest that the human mind cannot focus on two faults at the same time. If she can make the conversation about your failure, the spotlight is removed from her betrayal. This is a survival tactic. When you bring up evidence of her cheating, she doesn't deny it, she redirects. She says things like, "You're always so suspicious because of how you used to lie." Psychological patterns show that this is a way to make your legitimate concern look like insecurity or projected guilt. You are the victim of narrative hijacking when you enter a room to talk about her phone and leave the room apologizing for your attitude. We must also discuss the neurology of shame. Shame is the opposite of frame. When you feel shame, your body produces cortisol, which lowers your testosterone and makes you submissive. By constantly bringing up your past mistakes, she is keeping you in a low-power state. Behavioral observations show that a man in a low-power state is much easier to manage. He is less likely to set boundaries, less likely to check the bank statements, and more likely to accept breadcrumbs of affection. This isn't just drama, it is a psychological lockdown. She is neurologically neutering you so that she can continue her double life without any resistance from you. Furthermore, we must address the false equilibrium. Behavioral patterns show that a woman who is cheating often tries to create a tie in the moral game. In her mind, if you were bad in 2021 and she is bad in 2026, then nobody is the winner, and therefore nobody can be angry. But this is a fallacy. A mistake made years ago that was dealt with is not the same as a current ongoing betrayal of the home. You are focusing on growth, but she is focusing on leveling. She is dragging you back down into the mud so she doesn't have to look at the dirt on her own hands. You are the victim of equivalency fraud when you allow her to compare a historical mistake to a current crime. Another key behavioral marker is the weaponization of forgiveness. In a toxic dynamic, forgiveness is never actually granted, it is loaned. She forgave you for your past mistake, but she kept the interest high. Now she is calling in the debt. She acts as though her past forgiveness has earned her a future credit for bad behavior. This is transactional integrity. Psychological observations suggest that a woman who operates this way doesn't actually value the relationship, she values the leverage. If she truly forgave you, your past wouldn't be a weapon. The fact that it is a weapon proves that she was just waiting for her turn to be the villain. The first year after you realize this is happening is the hardest. You have to learn to say, "My past is a closed chapter, but your present is an open wound." You have to stop falling for the nostalgia trap. Behavioral observations suggest that men who stay in these guilt loops eventually suffer from moral fatigue. They stop caring about anything because they feel like they are always wrong. This is exactly where a cheating partner wants you, tired, confused, and broken. You are the victim of attrition of the soul when you let her use your history as a handle to pull you wherever she wants. Most men think that transparency will save them. They think if they are 100% honest about their past, she will be honest about her present. But for a woman who is already looking for an exit or distraction, your honesty is just ammunition. Behavioral observations suggest that you should never give a sword to someone who is currently stabbing you in the back. You need to understand that your value is not defined by your worst day. If you have changed, if you have grown, and if you have fixed your mistakes, you are a new man. The woman who keeps trying to bring back the old you is doing so because she is terrified of the new you who will hold her accountable. You are the victim of character assassination when she refuses to acknowledge your progress so she can keep you chained to your past.
I don't make content for the average mindset. I make it for the man who holds himself accountable. The one who can say no to distractions, not because someone told him to, but because he decided to. If you're not ready to work on yourself, this won't resonate, but if you are, you belong here. Most people watch and move on. If you're different, subscribe and comment. Show yourself you're serious. The third pillar of this psychological manipulation is the erosion of the moral high ground. Behavioral patterns show that for a woman to comfortably engage in cheating, she must first flatten the relationship's hierarchy of integrity. If you are the good man and she is the cheater, the psychological pressure on her is unbearable. However, if she can convince the world, and more importantly, convince you, that you are just as bad because of something you did in the past, the pressure vanishes. This is false equivalency strategy. Psychological observations suggest that she isn't looking for healing, she is looking for neutrality. She wants to create a world where everyone has messed up, so everything is allowed. You are the victim of integrity dilution when you allow your past to be used as a reason why her current betrayal shouldn't have consequences. We must look at the strategic use of memory. Behavioral observations suggest that human memory is highly malleable. When she wants to hide her cheating, she begins to curate your shared history. She stops remembering the 5 years you were faithful and focuses entirely on the 3 weeks you were struggling. She is rewriting the script. By making your past mistakes the main plot of the relationship, she makes her current infidelity seem like a subplot or a reaction. Psychological patterns show that this selective memory is a primary tool for avoidant personalities. You are the victim of history erasure when you allow her to define your entire character by your lowest moment. Let's look at the path of Vance. Vance was a man who had made a mistake early in his marriage. He had an emotional lapse that he confessed and spent years making up for. He became the perfect husband, the perfect father, and the ultimate provider. But years later, Vance noticed his wife, Elena, becoming cold and secretive. When Vance found evidence that Elena was seeing someone else, he confronted her. Elena didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She looked him in the eye and said, "You're the last person who should talk about trust after what you did 10 years ago." Vance is the winner in our story because he understood the statute of limitations on guilt. Instead of backing down or apologizing again, Vance realized that Elena was using his ghost to hide her demon. He looked at her and said, "That mistake was paid for and forgiven years ago. We're talking about what you are doing tonight." Vance didn't allow the conversation to pivot. He maintained his frame. He realized that her bringing up the past was a white flag. It meant she had no real defense for her current actions. Vance moved forward with the divorce, not because of anger, but because of logic. He saw that Elena wasn't interested in a partner. She was interested in a hostage she could blame for her own lack of character. Vance won because he realized that a man's growth is his own responsibility, but a woman's betrayal is her own choice. The fourth reason she does this is the social preemption. Behavioral observations suggest that a cheating partner often plants seeds of your past mistakes in the minds of friends and family. This is reputation management. If she eventually leaves you for the other person, she wants everyone to say, "Well, look at what he put her through in the past." She is using your old mistakes to build a safety net for her future reputation. Psychological patterns show that this preemptive character assassination makes you feel isolated and deserving of the betrayal. You focus on wealth and your own growth because results are the only thing that can counter a slander campaign.
You are the victim of public perception warfare when you think the truth about her cheating will be enough to save your name.
Furthermore, we must address the neurological cost of the double standard. Behavioral observations show that living in a relationship where you are held to a perfect standard while she lives by a zero standard creates a state of chronic cognitive dissonance. Your brain is trying to reconcile the idea of a loving wife with the reality of a calculating manipulator. This dissonance drains your glucose levels and leaves you mentally fatigued. This is why you feel like you can't think straight during arguments. She is using your past as a psychological weight to keep you from swimming to the surface of the truth. You are the victim of mental exhaustion when you try to solve a problem that she is actively maintaining. You must also understand the law of the moral ransom. When she brings up your past to cover her cheating, she is holding your peace of mind for ransom. She is saying, "I will stop bringing up your mistakes if you stop asking about my phone." This is a bargain with the devil. If you accept this deal, you are effectively licensing her infidelity. Behavioral patterns show that once a man accepts moral ransom, the cheating usually escalates because the partner realizes you have no floor to your self-respect. You are the victim of extortionist loyalty when you trade your right to the truth for temporary silence about your past. The year of realization is about emotional sovereignty. You have to realize that you are the only one who can forgive yourself. If you have done the work, if you have apologized, and if you have changed, her opinion of your past is irrelevant. Behavioral observations suggest that the winner is the man who can stand in a room full of people bringing up his old sins and feel zero shame because he knows the new man he has become. When her weapon stops hurting you, she has no choice but to reveal her own hands. This is the end game of accountability. You are currently in a mental siege. She is using the rocks of your past to break the windows of your present. But a man who has built a sovereign fortress of wealth, health, and discipline doesn't care about rocks. He looks at the person throwing them and realizes they are just projecting their own failure. Do not apologize for a ghost. Stand in the light of who you are today. I have a smart question for the men who have the fortitude to finish this video. If you were a king who once made a mistake in battle, but you have since built the greatest empire in the land, would you let a traitor within your own walls tell you that you don't have the right to defend your throne today? You are the king. Your past failure was a lesson. Her current betrayal is a treason. Act accordingly. Drop a comment below and tell the Brotherhood what is the past mistake she keeps bringing up to shut you down, and how are you going to close that file forever starting today? How are you going to prove through your current actions that the old you is dead and the new you is untouchable? Share your refusal of guilt. Your strength might be the shield for a brother who is currently drowning in shame. Let's build the wall of sovereign men together. If you made it all the way to the end, I genuinely appreciate you. That tells me you're not just watching, you're thinking, you're reflecting, you're working on yourself, and you're not alone in that anymore. There's a community here of men choosing growth over excuses. If this message gave you something valuable, subscribe and be part of it. Leave a comment, I read them, and your voice matters here. Keep doing the work. I'll see you in the next one.